Senator Graham, any statement you would like to give?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I really don't know what to say or how to begin other than the difference between the nobility of the law and a political stunt may be soon evident one way or the other, and I don't know whether this is actually pursuing the nobility of the law or a political stunt. We'll let the American people decide, but I don't question the chairman's motivation. He's a very fine man, and I think he's rightly disturbed by some of the decisions that were made in the past, and so have I been. But I guess if we're going to talk about evil, we need to talk about it more than just the last administration's policy decisions about trying to protect the nation, or to put in context what we're facing and who we're fighting. People who really could care less about any law anywhere. And would we have this hearing if we were attacked this afternoon? You want to have a bunch more hearings about what happened in the past? If one of our national treasures were attacked tomorrow, would we have more hearings? Or would we focus on repairing the damage and staying ahead of the enemy? If we're going to find out who did what when, we need to find out who was told about it and when they were told about it. And if we're going to really find out what happened, it seems to me we'd want to know what worked and what didn't. So I'm calling today for any memos that show information that was gathered from any enhanced interrogation technique, that be made available to the committee so we can look and see what worked. That's only fair. And you've got to remember, we're talking about this now many years after 9/11, and the people that we're judging woke up one morning like the rest of America and said, oh my God, what's coming next? It's not really fair to sit here in the quiet peace of the moment and put ourselves in such a holier-than-thou position, because you don't have to make that decision. They did. And I've been a criminal lawyer, defense and prosecutor for most of my adult life. I think I know the difference between a policy debate where I may disagree with the conclusion and a crime. The idea that you would read your political opponents into your crime makes no sense. The idea that you would seek advice from all corners of the government in formulating policy and to call that a crime is dangerous. What happened on September 11th, 2001 was unprecedented. It was the most vicious attack on our homeland by a foreign entity in the history of the nation. Mr. Chairman, here's what I think happened. The nation was rattled, the administration went on the offensive, and they looked at some statutes on the book as a way I wouldn't have looked at. They were very aggressive. They were going to make sure this didn't happen again, and they tried to come up with interrogation techniques evaluating the law in a way that I disagree with their evaluation. But there's not one iota of doubt in my mind that they were trying to protect the nation. But they made mistakes. They saw the law many times as a nicety that we couldn't afford, so they took a very aggressive interpretation of what the law would allow. And that came back to bite us. It always does. But that's not a crime. What we have to understand as a nation is that the fact that we embrace the rule of law is a strength, not a weakness. The fact that we will give our enemy a trial and they won't makes us better. The fact that our judgments are rendered based on evidence reviewed by independent judiciary is a strength. Their kangaroo courts are not the model for the world. So I have tried over these many years to speak up in a way that I think is best for the nation. As to the Army Field Manual, I think I have a pretty good understanding of it. I know why it exists. To say that is the only way you can interrogate someone within the law is not right. There should be interrogation techniques not on the internet for our national security. And let's bring the CIA director into this hearing. He has already testified if we caught a high-value target tomorrow, he would go to the president and ask for interrogation techniques not in the Army Field Manual to defend this nation, but they would be lawful. Is he a criminal because he would do that? No. I think this administration's policy, at least through the CIA director's sworn testimony, is that they would reserve unto themselves the ability to brief the commander-in-chief about a high-value target, and they would suggest techniques to the commander-in-chief that were lawful that are not included in the Army Field Manual. So this idea that someone said the Army Field Manual is the only way you can lawfully interrogate somebody, I completely disagree with. And to those who suggest it may not be the best tool available to the country, I totally agree with. Now, I don't know what Nancy Pelosi knew and when she knew it, and I really don't think she's a criminal if she was told about waterboarding and did nothing. But I think it is important to understand that members of Congress allegedly were briefed about these interrogation techniques. And again, it goes back to the idea of what was the administration trying to do. If you're trying to commit a crime, it seems to me that'd be the last thing you'd want to do. If you had in your mind, in your heart, that you're going to disregard the law and you're going to come up with interrogation techniques that you know to be illegal, you would not go around telling people on the other side of the aisle about it. You would not be getting legal advice. And the point of the matter is that they chose to ignore some pretty good legal advice. But is that a crime? So, as we go forward, there's a purpose to everything. There's a reason people do what they do. And it will soon become evident, I think, over time, the reason for these hearings. There's a lot going on in this world today, at home and abroad. And I wonder where this fits into the average American's hierarchy of needs right now. I've been on the Armed Services Committee where we did a very thorough investigation of these interrogation techniques and how they came about. The Levin report is a good one. It's there to be read. I'll take a backseat to no one about my love for the law and the desire for my nation to be a noble nation. The moral high ground in this war is the high ground. It's not a location. The enemy we're fighting, Mr. Chairman, doesn't have a capital to conquer or a navy to sink or an air force to shoot down. It is an ideological struggle, and the decisions made in the past have had two sides. We did get some good information that made us safer, but we also hurt ourselves. We damaged our reputation, and we did some things that I think are not going to make us safer in the long run if we kept doing them. So I'm ready to go forward. Waterboarding has never been an appropriate technique for me, and if there are any military member listening out there today, you will be prosecuted if you waterboard a detainee in your charge. Under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, it would be a violation. As to other agencies, please understand that in 2001, 2, and 3, the Geneva Convention did not apply to the War on Terror, only until 2006. The war crime statute that existed in 2001 was a joke. It codified the Common Article 3 standard, which nobody could adhere to because it's so vague in terms of the notice it would give to someone to comply. We have today, I think, the best war crime statute on the books of any nation in the world that would outlaw a grave breach of the Geneva Convention. We passed that in a bipartisan fashion. We have policies now, the Detainee Treatment Act, the McCain Amendment, and other policies that give our people who are fighting this war the guidance they need to make sure they understand what's in bounds and what's not. And we have a new president. Now we'll conclude with this. President Obama, in my opinion, has made some very sound decisions regarding Afghanistan and Iraq. I had a meeting yesterday with the administration about what to do with Gitmo detainees, how we can deal with these detainees in a way that adheres to our values and protects our nation. I want to be on record as saying that I think the administration has taken a very responsible view of Afghanistan, Iraq, and Guantanamo Bay. And it's my belief that they may ask for another continuance regarding military commission trials so that the Congress and the administration can sit down and work out what to do with these detainees as we move forward. If that request is made, I applaud it. I do appreciate what the President is trying to do to repair our image and to create rules for the road as we go forward. But as we look back, I will conclude with this. As we harshly judge those who had to make decisions we don't have to make, please remember this, that what we do in looking back may determine how we move forward. And let's not unnecessarily impede the ability of this country to defend itself against an enemy who is, as I speak, thinking and plotting their way back into America.
Thank you, Senator Graham.